Welcome on in to another episode of Dbacks Dispatch, another off-season edition. Two of your three hosts here today, as our main man Gabe is still enjoying himself in a much-deserved vacation. So keep sending us or keep making us jealous with your Instagram post, Gabe, because Josh was working on Josh, and now it's starting to work on me because seeing some cool stuff over there in Europe. But we are here today to talk about a little bit of Dbacks news, but then kind of touching on, and I know it hurts, but at least discussing some of the World Series stuff that's been going on because it is relevant. And obviously we're D-backs here, but we're still baseball fans as well, so it's kind of nice to stay on top of it a little bit. But I guess kind of getting into it and just going full at it. The main D-backs news, or really if anything the only D-backs news in the last, I'd say, week since our last show, was Tony Perezchica, the Dbacks third base coach, who was also in charge of the infield defense and I believe a little bit of the outfield defense here. He is going to be leaving the organization for the first time in 22 years. He's joining the Houston Astros, according to, I believe it was the AZ Republic or AZ Central that had the article I looked at. He is going to be joining a very similar role with the Astros that he had here with the Diamondbacks. It's just going to be a little bit more responsibility on his plate. I'm assuming it's going to be the same third base, infield defense, outfield defense, but he's also going to be helping the Astros minor league coaches and whatnot. Kind of just, I'm assuming, staying on the same page, kind of like how we saw the D-backs the last few years here, where they would obviously, the coach from the top down, they would have Barry and Wright and those guys sit with Strami, then they'd go back down to the minor leagues to kind of teach those guys what he wants to teach them. But like I said, it's the first time in 22 years. He was a minor league manager for the D-backs, a field coordinator, and it's weird. It's a field coordinator and an infield coordinator. It was listed two separate ones. I'm not sure why, but he was that from 03 to 16, and then from 17 until this year, he took over as the third base coach for the Diamondbacks. So I think it's, at least good for Tony. He put 22 years here for Arizona. It's not like we're not going to miss, we're going to miss him. And I think, I don't know what kind of impact the defense and whatnot's going to have. But I kind of want to ask you, Brandon, how much did this move surprise you with him, kind of just in general, just leaving for at least not a divisional opponent, which is nice. But did this surprise you? And then just what are your general thoughts on Perezchica leaving to have a similar role with the Houston Astros?
It definitely surprised me just due to the fact I thought he was doing a great job. But I think this was more on him just wanting a change of scenery, wanting some more responsibility. Like you said, he's been with the team for 22 seasons, been in his current role since 2017. So he's probably very close with Torrey. Houston got their revenge on us. We didn't take Strami. They kind of let him go, and we decided to bring him in. So now they took Tony Perezchica from us. I don't think it's going to have that much of a impact on the team. It's not like we had good defense on the infield. I will say that. What he did with Christian Walker since he got here needs to be studied. Christian Walker has turned into a Gold Glove, hopefully 3 straight caliber defender. He made Ketel Marte a finalist now, so that's really impressive. And I think a lot of other teams were starting to notice. So he probably, if he was going to go somewhere, he wanted something different. So now he's kind of really going over infield defense, not just at the major league level, but all levels of the organization. So happy there for Tony Perezchica. It's going to be interesting because he's been with them for a while. how are they just gonna just take someone else from inside the organization, or are they gonna look outside of the organization to potentially replace him?
That's a great question, honestly. It's because off the top of my head, I don't know who all in the Diamondbacks organization, like especially with going off of this information, it sounds like he wasn't in charge of the minor leaguers. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have somebody that's been working in like Reno or in some of their other like lower levels that could get the call, because the D-backs definitely seem to promote from within for a lot of their like roles for things like that. Obviously, like we talked about, Tony was with the team for like 13 or like 13 years roughly before he transitioned to the third base coach. So I definitely think it's going to be somebody from within. But I mean, you never know. Maybe they do kind of go outside of the organization and get somebody to fill that role. It's going to be, obviously, we're not going to know until probably the
January.
Probably
December.
after the year is my guess, because usually it's tough to tell. Usually they either get those coaching things kind of out of the way, and then once their coaching staff is settled, then they go after players. Sometimes they obviously worry about like free agency, and then the coaching stuff can come later. We won't really know, but it is going to be interesting to see the defense next year. I don't think there's going to be too much of an impact for them defensively, because most of these guys, they've had the tutelage, they have that knowledge that Tony Perezchica has given them, that they can go forward with those tools. And maybe we'll see some like younger guys, like obviously Blaze Alexander had some struggles when he was up here. Maybe the reason why he had those issues fixed was Tony Perezchica finally got to actually, get his teachings through to him. So maybe the like veteran or that like voice that's been in the clubhouse that guys like everybody in the team can point to and be like Corbin, Cattell, Walker, Perdomo, like all those young guys coming up on the infield, like Lawler next year, he's not going to have Tony Perezchica where they can go, hey man, listen to this guy. Like he's going to be the one that's going to be your.
They also could get somebody better. That's
exactly
entirely, but you could also go the other way, and we get someone where we are awful. So you never know.
It is going to be tough to decide. The one nice thing though is, again, I think that our players themselves are. That's where I think the coaching definitely helps, but the players are still the ones that have the reaction time, that have the ability, and that are making those plays. So I still think that it won't be too big of a difference that we see, but again, it's only time can really tell. But one of the other things, I guess, moving on to the next topic we had, because like I said, there was not really much D-backs related news, and this other one
that was it.
Is only vaguely related to the D-backs because it's happening in their spring training facility, and that's the Arizona Fall League. This isn't just an Arizona Fall League update like we did in the last few ones. This one has actually been this popped up the other day. You guys probably saw it online. You might have seen us share it in the Discord. The Arizona Fall League is now testing out the check swing challenge. They've tested out a bunch of things in the past, like obviously the bigger bases, the pitch clock, the shifting rules. So a lot of the things that we see in the Major League game today were started here in the Fall League, and this is kind of the trial run that we're getting. So the check swing, basically the quick rundown of how it's going to work in the Fall League is teams will be able to challenge an on-field check swing call to see if the swing crossed a 45-degree threshold from home plate. There's no official definition for what a check swing is. Like cross the plane and breaking the wrist, like when you see the wrist kind of like move almost like the bat's going forward, are two common understandings, especially like when I was in umpire school. That was one of the things they kind of like taught you to look out for hitters and all that. But those are not actual definitions in the rule book. It's a very black and white, like there's no concrete definition for what a check swing is. So I think maybe if they dial that back in, this will make this a little easier. But each team gets 2 check swing challenges per team, obviously per game. And then if both of those challenges are used up before the 9th inning, they actually get one additional one for that final 9th inning. So it kind of like incentivizes you to use them, not be like in the NFL where you kind of hold on to some of your challenges. But only pitchers, hitters, and catchers are able to ask for review. So it's not like normal plays in the field where they go to the booth, they have like the manager. They don't have like the replay review systems. It's all on the actual players themselves, knowing if they actually went or not. So my question to you, Brandon, because we've kind of talked about it a little bit in the group chat and all that. And we even talked about it before. First off, how do you feel about this new challenge being implemented, or this new challenge system? And then what would you want to see changed to it now that we've seen if I believe you have the clip of it too. I don't know if you ran it when I was going over that.
call of swing has been overturned. The batter is awarded first base.
A right-handed hitter or a hitter in the right-handed hitter. What am I saying? Duh, sorry. Then it's going to be just flipped over the other side. To me, that seems like a little bit too generous for hitters. Like even Brent Rooker, one of the best Twitter follows. Seriously, go follow him. Even he was saying, he's like, please, 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 I will never be called for a check swing in my life ever again. So I personally think that they need to. Josh. Yeah, honestly, I agree, Brandon. Where's the Batman mask, man? We're close to Halloween.
I mean, it's right here, actually.
But yeah, so I guess getting back to it, my question was, how do you feel about the challenge A? And then what would you change about the challenge system, whether it's more challenges per team, changing what the actual swing is? Like, what are your thoughts and how would you go about it?
It's stupid because there's no clear definition of what a check swing is. So how can these players know to challenge if there's no clear, like, that's the thing about the check swing that's always bothered me, is it's just based on the first base or the third base umpire if they think it's a swing. I think this, until they solidify what actually is a check swing, like, is it the 45-degree angle? Is it the crossing the plane, breaking the wrist? Like, is that what it is? Like, that's what I think this is a terrible idea. This is an absolute terrible idea until you solidify what is a check swing. Like, they should have done that first, because I'm pretty sure most batters don't know what a check swing is. And you're a little late on this. You guys should have done this after the 21 season, when you had a team season end on a check swing. The Giants, like, I remember at that time I was living. I'm like, you cannot have a season end like that. You cannot have a team season end on a umpire's discretion on what is a check swing. Like, I was livid at. Oh, why did it take us 3 seasons to realize, oh, maybe we should implement a challenge season? Oh, you want to know why? Because MLB is slow as hell in making changes.
I mean, they've had they've been testing the automated ball strike system for what, 3-4 years now, almost. I think it was like 19 when they first implemented it, and it's still under trial.
It's not coming in next season, like they said, most likely not. And I'm like, what are we waiting? Like, you guys need to make a decision. But the thing is, Major League Baseball does not like making changes. Like the whole pitch clock thing, like they sat on that for a couple of seasons before really deciding to make that change. And at first, everyone didn't like it, and everyone thought last season, not this season, but in 23, that all these pitchers getting hurt was because of the pitch clock. No, it's because these guys are throwing over 100 miles an hour. That's what's causing all these elbow and shoulder issues.
Also, could possibly, I think, potentially start from like little league coaches. Like if these kids are, we know how baseball development and stuff like that, travel ball, that's why little league has very strict rules with how many pitches a kid can throw.
Or don't throw breaking balls.
Don't throw breaking balls. Like, they have to have like a certain limit. And again, I'm not saying that, like, if you have that kind of potential as an athlete, like, put it on display. I fully get it, but don't blame the pitch clock for when, like, the human body is not meant to do that. The motion of throwing a baseball is
not a natural motion.
It's not natural. That's why softball players and softball teams have 2 pitchers, because the motion of doing this is normal. You can do this 200-300 times a day probably, and
there's a reason why they ice their shoulders and their elbows after they pitch.
Exactly. So I'm kind of with you. I think they definitely need to fine-tune the rule a little bit, because even just off of that display, I was like, I'm sorry, if you're going to tell me that guy has to almost have his barrel pointing at the third baseman, it's like, why even have the check swing challenge? Like, that's a clear swing. The home plate umpire is going to call that, and the batter's not going to challenge it. The batter knows that he didn't go, but it is going to be, if we do see it, we'll probably see it in like 2027, 2028 at the earliest. And that's after they do some fine tuning. They bring it back next year. They probably change how exactly it works and whatnot. But I mean, it's a cool idea. Like you said, there should not be a team having their season, a game end on a check swing call. And I think that this is at least them trying to be, proactive. But if you were going to be proactive, like you said, you would have done it in 21, not in 24. Like, it doesn't fully make sense, but hey, you know what? In the long run, I think it's just going to be nothing but a positive. But we'll just have to see, obviously, when all those details are all ironed out.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely stupid until you let at least the players union know this is what a check swing is. But right now they don't know what so then how are these players because like the rule states, only a pitcher, catcher, or batter can challenge. So if each of the three don't know what an actual check swing is, how can they challenge?
Yeah, like the balls and strikes are a little bit easier because it's the same with the automated ball strike system. It's a pitcher, I think it's a pitcher, catcher, or hitter. Yep. But again, those guys know, like, there's actual defined definitions for what a strike zone is. Umpires don't fully. In the rule book, there is. It's not held. Like, it's definitely not held to what it should be because I think it says like from the like the logo to the bottom of your knees, and I'm pretty sure most strike zones basically go from the top of the knee to like maybe your sternum. It seems like for a lot of guys, unless they're standing like Judge, Stanton, those guys that stand tall. Seems like a lot of guys when they're like kind of hunched over in their hitting stances.
It's
like
supposed to be top of the knee to the bottom of the letters. That's what the strike zone is. So
that's where like at least there is some actual concrete, like there is an actual like definition, or they're saying, hey, this is what a strike zone would be. Every player has where you can go from the top of their knee to the bottom of the lettering. Like that's on their uniform. That's why they have the uniforms. It's there. Versus, like you said, this check swing thing. There's no concrete way to say what the hell a check swing is. Like even there's times where I'm like, I'll be watching TV and I'm like, yeah, his wrist didn't break. It didn't go past the plate. That's not a check swing. And they're like, that's a check swing. I'm like, do umpires even know what they are? Does anybody know what they are?
They don't.
But oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, I just think it just bothers me. This whole strike zone, like baseball's gonna take forever to make the change of either robot umps or automated balls. Like, I don't like the whole robot thing because it completely takes hundreds of umpires out of a job.
And you still got to have the home plate umpires there for safe out calls and whatnot.
Yeah,
and fair foul.
I like the automated balls and strikes. That if a player thinks that it was a ball or a strike, then they tap their head.
Yeah, I think that system is.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that one probably the most. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I think this whole check swing challenge is absolutely stupid.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat, and I feel like most baseball fans are. Again, it's a cool concept. I like it. It's just at the moment and at what it is right now, I agree. It's a little bit ridiculous. And that's not the only ridiculous thing regarding MLB and their decision making and what they want to do. God, what a segue, because the World Series umpires that they chose to have behind the plate just baffle me. Again, I don't know the system, how they choose it, why they choose it, but ranked out of 90 home plate umpires, and their accuracy of calling balls and strikes behind the plate, this is in order as it's listed. So game one yesterday, Carlos Torres, he is ranked 32nd out of 90, and this is his first World Series. So, he's at least, again, 32nd. It's not the top 10. Spoiler alert, there's 0 top 10 umpires in this, which is insane. Today's game 2, Andy Fletcher is 73rd.
The highest is 18th. What
he doesn't have a top 15. Exactly. So Andy Fletcher tonight in game 2, his first World Series. Hey, good for him. Congrats to him. I'm glad, you're getting that experience, but it's like in the biggest series of the year, can we really be doing that? Game 3, when it switches to New York, Mark Carlson, he was 49th out of 90. Game 4, Doug Eddings, 60th. And then if we get to a game 5, Mark Ripperger was 18th. He was the highest rated umpire. Game 6, Chad Fairchild, he was 37th out of 90. And then game 7, if again 5, 6, and 7 are all if they actually happen.
We don't know, right?
Exactly. Todd Tichenor would be there behind the plate for game 7, and he was 24th out of 90. So not even a single top 10, top 15 umpire. And I believe it was 4 of the 7 umpires are all like in the last half of the league. Like they're not even the top 50% of umpires that you could have got. So my question to you, Brandon, at least with this one, is can the MLB, with all of the money, with gambling especially, and all of this that's going into the league, can they continue to do this year by year where they just refuse to put people like, again, I don't know why the system isn't, hey, if you're a top 10 umpire, if you were ranked consistently, like that should be an incentive. The World Series and playoff games should be incentives for the umpires that do their job right. Like you don't want to go to your job and put in, bust your ass at 40 hours a week, going over your quota or your numbers, metrics, whatever it is, doing like, being a good employee, all that, just to see somebody who shows up 30 minutes late every day, doesn't hit their numbers, basically doesn't even give a hell about the company, but they're gonna get rewarded for like a bonus. Like that's just not right to me. So do you think that the MLB can continue getting away with this? And then do you think that there should be a system on like, a merit system of rewarding umpires that can do their job and giving them these higher leverage, moments and opportunities?
Tinfoil hat's coming on right now. Listen to this.
Okay.
It's Dodgers and Yankees. What if the top ones either have not great numbers with these teams? I feel like there are unknown factors that we do not know. With some of the top guys, maybe it's possible that they're known Dodger or Yankee. Like I feel like that's one of them because of how big of a fan base the Dodgers and Yankees have. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the top umpires are Dodger or Yankee fans, or they hate both of them so much they're like, we cannot allow these guys here. Like, I have no basis for this. I'm just trying to think like why
kind of like how jury duty goes like, hey, do you have any bias reasons why you shouldn't be
Correct.
on the jury? And maybe those umpires are like, yeah, dude, I grew up in San Francisco, I hate the Dodgers.
Or maybe MLB has so much background on these umpires that they know. Like maybe I have a feeling like they looked and they're all right. So these guys, this is what they do when they umpire LA games, San Francisco games, or New York and Boston games. Like they're trying to get rid of as much bias as they can. And then you also brought it up, sports betting. I wonder if some of the other top guys have been Major League Baseball maybe kept it hush hush, but maybe some of the top guys have been betting and they kind of kept it. Like, I'm just trying to think we know how stupid Major League Baseball is. Like, could it be that they just chose not top guys? Yeah. But I like to put my tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory hat on, and the whole idea of maybe they've been either linked to being fans of the Dodgers and Yankees, or they're fans of like Boston and San Francisco or San Diego. Like MLB's like, we cannot allow, like we need to keep this as unbiased as we can. So maybe that's the reason. Again, I'm just trying to spitball here.
Yeah, so it's kind of sad that like we have to try to figure out a way to justify MLB's decision making when if they could probably be transparent. If they could just go out there, like if they just went out and they're like, hey, like we hear everybody, we know that like you want the best umpires, but just like, we're all humans, there's going to be some bias, like natural bias. Again, just like how when like a judge signs up, judges shouldn't have certain biasy with like how they make cases. I think umpires, even if they are a fan, it should be the integrity of the game, set that aside. But again, we're all humans. You can only ask them so much. So I would prefer the MLB at least come out and be like, yes, we do ask these guys if they're ever a fan of these teams or rivals of these teams. We do check to see, maybe if they do, let's say they're not gambling on baseball games, but they are, gambling on like NFL, college football, these other things. Let's just not touch that with the 10-foot pole. We're not even going to give them
against the rules to bet on other sports, but they're like, you bet on other sports. That's we don't even want any sort of doubt that maybe you're being influenced.
And I mean, the one nice thing about it is, I mean, maybe not nice. There's 3 umpires that are being behind the plate for this one that are all getting their first World Series games. Obviously, yesterday with Carlos Torres, he wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. I feel like his zone was, I can't even say consistent because he did miss a few, and we'll kind of get into that. He did miss a few fastballs from Garrett Cole that he just would not call strikes, but then randomly would call one, and it just doesn't make sense. But him, Andy Fletcher in tonight's game, who was 73rd out of 90, and then Mark Ripperger. Ripperger is at least like he's a name that I know that he's always been a pretty consistent umpire. He's not the umpire that called like Pat Hoberg. That's the kind of umpire. Why is Pat Hoberg? Again, I get it.
Yeah.
Maybe he has a family vacation. Maybe there's something that he's like prior commitments. That's understandable. I'm not saying like they need to come out and out that, but when you have guys like Pat Hoberg that are consistently one of the better umpires and they get like one World Series every other year, maybe like every 4 or 5 years, it just doesn't make sense. And we're as fans, we're the ones that are like our teams aren't even in it. But I think for the betterment of baseball and just making it like Tom Grossi made a MLB scriptwriters video, and even that he had the NFL refs come on. And he's like, flag, and he's like, no, we don't need a flag here. Our umpires are already bad enough. And I'm like, he doesn't watch baseball as much as I feel like anybody listening to our show or anybody, the average baseball fan. And if even he knows the umpires are terrible, that's like Pat McAfee, all these guys that don't ever watch baseball and their first thing that they're seeing is, oh my God, MLB has some terrible umpires. That's not a good look for the game. That's not a good look for you giving a shit about the integrity of the sport, in my opinion. But, I do agree. It would be, I think we're maybe putting our tinfoil hats on a little bit, especially the gambling side, but I'm not putting that by anybody, Everybody, like maybe they're seeing the walking bets and they're like, ooh, I'll tail that a little bit, I can get on some of that action, even though I don't think any of those ever hit. But moving on into our, next topic that is, again, still part of the overarching theme of these last three is the Yankees and Dodgers World Series matchup in a whole. This is the 12th time that these teams are meeting in a fall classic. With the first one this is the first one since 1981, which the Dodgers took home that one. The Yankees have won 8 of their 11 matchups, with the Dodgers taking home, obviously, 3. These are 2 of the top 3 payrolls in baseball. That's been a very talked about thing. I'm not going to harp on it too much, but the thing that I wanted to kind of focus on, or at least ask you, Brandon, and then anybody listening in the chat and all that, love to hear your thoughts and opinions as well, whether it's in the live chat or in our Discord. Is this matchup of the Dodgers and Yankees, is this good for the sport of baseball in general? Or do you think that it's, like you said, you're not going to watch it. Obviously it can be annoying, but me personally, I think that just getting eyes on the sport, like I said, having Tom Grossi even make reaction videos to things like this, that's wild. That's exactly what the game of baseball needs to continue to grow, to continue to get some of the younger eyes and some of the other people that might write it off as not a sport in a joking way, non-joking way, either way. I think it's good for getting more people into the sport of baseball. And I kind of wanted to ask you the same thing. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad because of the 2 high payroll teams showing that money buys championships? What are your thoughts?
But it doesn't, though. This is the first time in, I think, at least 4 or 5 years that the 2 best teams in each league are competing in the World Series. So it shows that it doesn't work. All right, I'm going to say this. As a sports fan and as a big-time baseball fan, this is huge for the sport. Literally, the 2 biggest teams, when you think pop culture-wise, like in music videos and movies, most of the time they have an LA Dodgers hat on or a New York Yankees hat on. So everyone knows those logos. So if they see that they're playing, they're going to watch. This was the most watched Game 1 since 2017. So it already is proving, yes, this is good for the sport of baseball as a whole. If we want the sport to grow, this was needed. Now, as a Padres fan growing up, as a Dbacks fan now, this hurt. This just makes, I just can't watch. Everyone thinks, oh, you're going to watch. No, I didn't watch Game 1. I am dying on this hill. I will not watch. I may see the highlights when I'm browsing on social media, but I'm not going to set aside time in my schedule when the games are on to watch. I'm just not. Yeah, like this man's doing right now. I'm absolutely not doing that. But and I said this on my friend Shook show. We did a World Series preview. I basically said the same thing. It is good for the overall growth of the sport. Absolutely, there is no disputing that fact. Like literally, the two biggest brands are playing each other. Two old franchises too. Like it's and everyone's like, "Oh, this was needed after last year with the Rangers and Dbacks."
It's I know, like we're definitely gonna be biased. We're gonna be like, shut up, don't make fun of our World Series. And like I get, like, especially with the Rangers, like the D-backs are probably more well known for the 0-1 taking taking that World Series from the Yankees. So there probably are some people that are just like, I will never watch the D-backs in the World Series. They already had their one. And then there's some people that, again, the casuals, just like a lot of sports, kind of like how the Super Bowl might not get the diehard fans of those teams to watch, but you're going to get some casuals. You're going to get some people that aren't into the sport. And yes, sadly, last year's matchup wasn't the big prime marquee matchup. I still think it's good that you get matchups like that for baseball. Keeps a disparity.
Parity is good.
Yes, parity is very good for the sport of baseball. But I do agree with you as a baseball fan. I think this is probably the best outcome that they could have happened, because even looking back on it, a Guardians-Dodgers World Series, people are not going to tune in. They're just going to immediately assume the Dodgers are going to win. The Yankees and Mets World Series, yes, it's a Subway Series. You're going to have interest alone in that, but I still think it'd be one of those where people and the sports books and in the people's minds, there's going to be a clear favorite and a clear team that is better than
Also,
the other.
it's very one coast bias. Like Mets and Yankees, like everyone on the West Coast are like, why? Like, why should I watch? Like this just I think this probably I don't know if Mets Yankees gets as high of a viewership in game one as Dodgers Yankees did.
I mean, just alone the amount of viewership they're getting out of Japan, like that's again one of the crazy things is they're getting the season premiere of One Piece. You guys, I don't talk about anime too much in here. I don't know if any of you guys know One Piece. It's a very probably well known thing. One Piece is very big there. It's very big. It's very well known. It's a hype thing. They delayed the season opening and the premiere for this new one simply for game one of the World Series, so it could be more like easily watchable on TV. That's the power of Shohei, and that's again one of the benefits of
Ohtani Magic.
Yes, and it sucks as D-backs fans. We don't want the Dodgers to win. But the way I've kind of been able to get myself, kind of like as you said, I'm watching it. I have it in the back right here. The outlook I'm going into it now is there's somewhat of a win-win. If the Dodgers win, like yes, they finally win their first World Series since or their first legit World Series since '88 in a full season. And we're gonna have like Shug, we're gonna have Cruz, a bunch of Dodger fans, rightfully so. Like any team that wins a championship, going on a victory parade. We're gonna hear it for another year. But the nice thing is, it's since 2020 already happened. We already somewhat know what that's gonna be like. We have to deal with it. Welcome in, Bubba. Always a pleasure to see you, my man. But I think it's that just completely sidetracked me.
Yes, absolutely.
God, what was I just saying?
Basically, this like Dodger fans, if they win, will be unbearable, and we won't have anything to say about it. We can't
but we've
say,
already like dealt with it, and if the Dodgers do win, then there's gonna be a lot of Yankees fans. Then like I'm not saying this because Jason, if you're listening, like I'm still rooting for the Yankees, obviously, but there are a lot of just not even just a lot of Yankees fans in general online that can get pretty annoying. All sports fans can, but that's where I'm like, either way, there's gonna be a fandom that's really toxic, quote unquote, online that is gonna be very upset, and then there's gonna be a fandom that is gonna be doing a victory lap. It's one of those where I'm like, yes, it's gonna suck either way, but there is still gonna be some good out of it. But at least in general, I still think it's nice to have a matchup like this every now and then where you can kind of get two titans. Like we don't ever have two number one seeds going at it in the World Series. It's usually there's an underdog. It's usually a David versus Goliath story, and we don't have that this year. It's Goliath versus
usually
Goliath.
whoever beats the Brewers in the National League.
Yeah, this year is it's Godzilla versus Mothra. It's two giants duking it out. The worst matchup. Yeah, Bubba, it's not the best. And yeah, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. There'll be a new season. There'll be a new champion next year. And then hopefully if it's us, we get to go on the same parade and the same, gloating spree, but time will tell. But the last part that we wanted to, kind of touch on a little bit is at least doing a little bit of a World Series update from game one, kind of a recap, getting our thoughts. So for any of you that didn't watch or, weren't there, didn't see the highlights and all that, because like Brandon's saying, he saw the highlights, but he's not going to actually watch it. Quick recap, the Dodgers, after them and the Yankees were having a little bit of a pitcher's duel, Cole and Flaherty matching each other. Dodgers go up 1-0 in the fifth on a sac fly. Giancarlo Stanton pulled out his best Seawalk impression, and I'm pretty sure they're actually co-owners of Chavez Ravine. And he cranks a 2-run shot in the top of the sixth. 116 off the bat, like that had like 6 seconds of hang time. It was a moonshot. If you didn't see it, go watch the highlight. It was crazy. I think also the hardest hit ball in the World Series in the StatCast era, so that's crazy. Gleyber Torres misplayed a ball on a relay throw that allowed Shohei Ohtani to turn a double into a triple. And then he came in on a sac fly to score, which I believe that was in the 8th inning. In extras, Jazz runs wild on Will Smith and Blake Trinan, gets over to third. Volpe moves him over with the fielder's choice because Tommy Edman can't handle the really hard hit ball to him. Looks like the Yankees, they have all the momentum. Goes into the bottom of the 10th. Runners, 1 out, runners on first and second. Shohei Ohtani comes up. Aaron Boone makes the move to go to not Tim Hill, the lefty who's been pretty solid in the postseason for the Yankees so far. He puts in Nestor Cortez, who has been injured and has not pitched in a month, to face 3 straight MVPs. First pitch to Shohei Ohtani, fastball right down the cock. Ohtani thankfully pops it up. Alex Verdugo, don't like the guy, makes a really nice play into the stands. But because he fell in the stands, runners move to second and third. 2 outs now, runners on second and third. Their option is, okay, do we pitch to Mookie Betts, who's actually had a really solid postseason so far and has been seeing the ball a little bit better? Or do they try to go to the lefty-lefty matchup, face Freddie Freeman, and try to get that last out to steal game 1 in LA? Well, they go the latter, but the result was not what they were expecting, because Nestor Cortez's second pitch of the game was a four-seamer, a little bit more inside, not as much on a tee, but it wasn't the best pitch, as Freddie Freeman with one good foot just absolutely has probably one of the coolest World Series moments I've seen in at least like the last 5 years. I might be saying that just because I don't want to remember Corey Seager, okay? But a walk-off grand slam, a moment that I know a lot of Dodger fans are probably going to remember, but oh man, something that's going to sting for any Yankees fans. So if any Yankees fans are listening, trust me, we know how it felt. We saw it last year with our team in game 1 with Corey Seager and then Adolis. It sucks. It really does.
Adolis, yeah, it was.
It's
tough.
It's rough, but obviously, kind of like in the last topic of this being good for the game of baseball. My question to you, Brandon, for game 1, it's actually a little bit of a 2-parter. The first one is, how would you rate game 1 on a scale of 1 to 10, whether of just game 1s in the World Series or just as a game entertainment wise in whole? And then 2, seeing Freddie Freeman's walk-off grand slam, the emotion, like all of that, and that being the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history, does that make Corey Seager's game-tying bomb in game 1 last year hurt a little bit less, or are we just using some copium?
I'd probably rate this probably about a 6 or a 7. Like, it was pretty solid. But Aaron Boone being Aaron Boone, just not being able to manage right. I truly don't understand why would you bring somebody in the one of the biggest moments of your season
especially, do you know Freddie Freeman? I saw a
hasn't-
tweet. Do you know his numbers against
Dude,
lefties with bases loaded?
it's-
His slugging
it's
is like, for OPS
disgusting.
is like, well, I think he has a slugging of like over 2,000 or like a
Yeah.
2-dotter.
So I'm
Must
like, he obviously didn't know that. The call though by Joe Davis was
Gabby meet
so-
Freddie. Pulled out the iCarly reference.
Yeah, it was really great. Freddie Freeman also had a triple on 1 foot too, because Alex.
It was a double with an error, if we're being completely honest.
I'm pretty sure the stat book still says triple, but
Oh, I mean, I don't think Verdugo touched it. He misplayed it, but I'm still gonna say that was a double with an error.
so it's really good for Freddie because Freddie's had a rough couple of months, not just on the field, but what was going on with his son. I'm happy for Freddie and Freddie only, not Dodger fan, not the Dodger team, because I don't hate. So I don't hate Shohei because you can't. You seriously cannot hate Shohei.
Yeah.
I don't hate Mookie. I don't hate Freddie. I don't like the Dodger fan base. Like, I don't hate the organization. Like, I can't be mad when they have an owner that wants to spend. Like, there's nothing to be mad about. It's more of, like, there's nothing the team has done.
Yeah,
Other than
they're
having
a well-run organization.
Yeah,
Can't be mad
like
about
what? It's just more of being bitter. And in regards to your second question, it doesn't change anything. It still pisses me off because we don't give up. Even if we still gave up the 3-run homer, but say we don't let Dolis Garcia hit that walk-off, we potentially are up 2-0 coming home. Changes everything. So
All around me are familiar faces.
Right. So it's gonna be. I want this to benefit the league as a whole, whether that's it going 4, 5, 6, 7. I just want this to be good for the sport. Like, that's all I care about.
Yeah, say Freddie. I don't know if it was PEDs. They must have given him mad Percocet because I don't know if you saw him limping. He did his best Gibby going around the bases there because I don't think he has much feeling in that foot. But hey, man, you don't really got to run too fast when you're trotting around the bases after a walk-off.
The thing is, a lot of his power comes from his legs and his hands. He doesn't need feet technically. Like, it's all his core, and his core is fine. Like, if he was having like a oblique issue, then I don't think he plays.
Yeah, so it's definitely one of those where Dave Roberts is probably like, "Hey man, can you stand in the box?" Thankfully I don't think it's as bad of a. It might have been like a sprained ankle, so it's similar to Cattell, but I don't think it was his
week off
foot.
helped. I think the week off helped tremendously for him.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was his right foot, his like first base plant bag, which with him being a lefty, that's not his, the foot that he needs to use as he's like swinging mostly, so he doesn't have to worry about it too much. But yeah, man, that I at least think that the Freddie call or that Freddie home run, it'll be nice next year to see that on all the in between inning highlights and replays and the Zen thing, and not having to see Corey Seager. Like, also one of the things is Freddie Freeman putting the bat up and like just like letting it drop. That photo alone is already so much cooler in my opinion. Yes, I'm biased, I know. Than Corey Seager hitting the ball and screaming. That's still a really cool moment. Yes, it hurts, but I think at least Freddie. Yes, it's recency bias. It's going to be the most recent thing they're going to play it. But I think in 5 years, I think the Freddie one will be the one that people remember more than.
Also, it could completely change. What if the Dodgers lose the next 4?
Oh, and I think as we are talking, the Dodgers just took the lead on a Tommy Edman solo shot.
Tommy freaking Edman. Like, why do they keep doing this? They keep
Dude, that Tommy Edman Kopech trade is looking like it's going to be the smartest move they made.
Like, I just don't understand it. Like, they get these guys that are not good. Their freaking player development department is so good. It drives me freaking crazy.
Same.
They did it with Jason Hayward. They did it with David Peralta. They did it with JD Martinez. I'm like, why? Stop being so good.
Yeah, and then kind of like you said earlier, it's not like we don't hate the Dodgers, like, you know, the players. Like it's hard. You can't hate Shohei Ohtani and Clayton Kershaw as baseball fans, in my opinion. Like even Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, like they're some of the most genuine. Like Freddie Freeman, especially, like you're saying, the things that he had to go through with his son earlier, and like all of that, and even I don't know if you saw afterwards, he was saying how he went to his dad after the Grand Slam and kind of had the moment. Things like that where like the Dodgers genuinely have a lot of really good, like it's not like back when they had Puig, when Puig was kind of an asshole. And like there's nobody to hate. It's just like you said, it's just being like jealous in a way of like, God damn, every part of you have an owner that like makes money and is willing to spend money. You have development that's really well. You have, you know, you live in a city that seems like people always want to like move to. Like they just have everything, man. And this isn't me being like, oh my God, salty. It's just genuinely like a damn, like I want that. Like that's what I want the D-backs to be in like, you know, 20 years or so.
If only, right?
Yeah. But I guess, you know, kind of to wrap up here before we get out, I wanted to give, or at least get your predictions. Obviously, with that Tommy Edman home run right there, it might sway a little bit for what we think. Do you think the Dodgers hold on to this lead and go to New York with a solid 2-0 lead? And then if that is the case, and they do you think the Yankees can come back? Do you think they will come back? Do you think it's going to be like an 0-1 where they could take the next three, bring it back to LA up 3-2? What are your predictions and kind of how do you see this series playing out the rest of the way?
So I initially said Dodgers in 6. So I'm gonna stick with that.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers just have like everything's clicking. All their like they have their bullpen, in my opinion, is a little bit more solid. I think when you're getting Tommy Edman and some of these guys that are, we talked about even throughout the season how that bottom of the half of the Dodgers lineup isn't as scary. If you're getting Max Muncy, Tommy Edman, and even like Kike Hernandez hitting well and getting on base for that top of the lineup, I don't see the Dodgers slowing down. And especially RIP to Fernando Valenzuela. That was really sad to hear about the other day. And I think that's going to be like things like that don't actually have any control over what happens in real life sporting events. But I still feel like with how Fernando was like with the community in LA and just how like Fernando Mania took over, so many people, even like today, even in Arizona, I see Valenzuela jerseys more than I see probably more Dodgers, like Ethier, Betts, Ohtani, Freeman. I
he
think
was
that,
the original Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
He was the fact that an entire country rallied behind him.
Like, I'm just going to look up his stats really quick. For anybody that doesn't know how good Fernando Valenzuela was, he had a 41 and a half career WAR, 173 wins, 355 or 354 ERA, over 2,000 strikeouts. He had a 1.32 career WHIP. But dude, he was a reason why. Like, I think he was in that 81 World Series. I believe he pitched like a complete game shutout, had like 7 walks, 9 hits. They were talking about on the broadcast the other day, and I think just the Dodgers are going to have that, like, you know, the city, everybody, you know, they're connected and they're dangerous. Don't want to let the Tory, you know, quote, be stealing by the Dodgers, but it's just what I'm feeling, man. Like they're firing on all cylinders, it seems like, and not knocking the Yankees. The Yankees still have a really solid roster. They just need Judge to turn it around. Like if Judge can start hitting like Aaron Judge did in the regular season, I still think the Yankees clearly, or at least have a really good shot because they still have a solid bullpen. And they still have some guys in the lineup that can slug. It's just one of those where if Aaron Judge isn't doing it, Stanton and Soto can only carry you so much.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm not like I said, I don't care as long as I'm just not watching.
So I would love to see. I mean, I don't want to say Destin Sports Cause seem to win a chip, but I mean, and yeah, it's like it's not like a 1-to-1 correlation, but when you have somebody in your community, whether it's a player that was a former player or like a celebrity or something like that, like even like when, like, you know, Kobe passed, like communities come together, teams come together, and I know it's a big thing on Twitter about like, oh, momentum's not real in sports and all that. Momentum is that kind of thing definitely gets teams fired up and can get them momentum and going in the direction that they need. And yeah, like in 2017, the Astros and all that, sometimes you just need something that brings you together to where you don't worry about the little things. You're like, oh, cool, they struck out. Oh, they gave up this lead. Don't worry. We got this. We're still going to win. And I think it's going to be like that. But I just want Game 7. Game 7 is one of the best things in sports. And when your team's not in it, I should say, because when your team's in a Game 7, oh my God, stomach is upside down. And I just want it to be over. But when they're not in it for just purpose or purely entertainment aspects, give me 7. Let me see Judge or Ohtani hit some crazy, home run in LA back there that like either seals it or maybe, breaks the other team's heart right when they thought they were this close to finally getting the job done. But yeah, say any final thoughts from you, good sir Brandon?
No. Oh my God, I feel like I need to wash my mouth. That was so talking so much Dodgers.
Yeah, so definitely a little more, Dodger and related than we wanted, but hopefully by the time we have our next show, the World Series will be over and we'll hopefully get, a little more D-backs related news and, kind of get to fully transition into the off-season talks. But either way, we're hopefully less than a week away from that. We'll just have to see. But again, appreciate each and every one of you guys coming out. Bubba and Josh, thank you for stopping in the live chat. For anybody that was sitting here listening, not in the chat, appreciate you as well. And then anybody that's watching or listening after the fact, the next day on Spotify, whatever, you are also equally appreciated. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter. I believe we're still doing another giveaway soon. Make sure you join the Discord. We do have multiple channels in there for football, hockey, basketball. So with those seasons starting up, plenty of places to kind of talk some ball there. And just in general, on the Twitter, we put out our live or a tweet whenever we're going live. So make sure you hit the notification bell on there. We'll see you guys next week.
Later.
It's the Dbacks Dispatch. Let's go. Yeah, bring the red game. Josh on the floor. West Coast vibes, catch us on the air. Home running dogs, diamond gems we share. Brandon was a dad, Caesar man was a plan. Red brace it down, tells it like it is, man. Gabs on fire, brings the heat every time. Josh on the mix, keep the beat so prime. Ain't got the insights every week's a hit. Tune in, Dbacks Dispatch, this is it. Now we rollin'. D-Backs, Dispatch, yeah. Talk to Brandon, Gabe, this is Big Catch. Josh on the mix, he makes the beats. West Coast vibe, got the G fucking the bad. The home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. D-Backs Dispatch, we're here to stay. Yeah, catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it. We got the home Mac, the home Mac, the home Mac, home Mac. D-Backs Dispatch, we're here to stay. Catch us every week, we bring the flavor to it.